There are stories that never made it into medical books, truths hidden behind monastery walls long forgotten, and in the songs of people who never wrote down what they knew. Stories that spoke of healings that came not from pills, but from a silent remembrance within the soul itself. And maybe that's why you're here now. Because somewhere in your life, you've already felt that what science teaches isn't enough. That there is something deeper, something forbidden, that doctors never told you. Modern society has learned to see the human being as a machine. If a part breaks, replace it. If a system fails, try to fix it with external substances. But what if that vision is incomplete? What if illness was never the enemy? What if pain, instead of being a sign of weakness, was actually an invitation? An invitation to cross the border between what is visible and what remains hidden. When you look at your own life, you may notice, in moments of fragility, something within you insisted on staying whole. A silent flame, untouchable, that no diagnosis can extinguish. It is this flame many tried to hide, but that now burns again inside you. It is this calling that leads you to the forbidden healing they tried to erase. Think for a moment. What if every symptom were a message? Not a sentence, not a punishment, but an ancient symbol, a forgotten language waiting to be decoded. For centuries, entire cultures saw the body's signals as letters sent from the invisible. Today, those signals are muffled by quick remedies that silence, but never solve. And this is where the difference begins. You are not about to hear a common health manual. You are stepping into a territory where healing is revelation, not technique. The call that echoes is not to search outside. It is to remember what was always within. This forbidden memory was persecuted, ridiculed, discarded by the rush of the modern world. Yet it endures. It endures because it doesn't depend on books or laboratories. It endures because it is written into what you are. With every breath you feel this call. With every heartbeat, a nearly forgotten memory. You were not born to be a prisoner of diagnoses. You were born to remember there is a medicine that can't be bought in pharmacies. A medicine that cannot be patented because it belongs to no one. It belongs to the silence of the soul, to the visions that come when you close your eyes, to the whispers that rise in moments of pain. And maybe you ask, why did so many try to hide this knowledge? The answer is simple and uncomfortable. Because what is free cannot be controlled. Because true healing doesn't generate profit. And because when someone awakens to their inner power, they stop depending on the system. That is the truth they never wanted you to know. But it did not die. Just as a buried seed waits for the right moment to break through the earth, this wisdom waits for the instant when someone is ready. And if you've come this far, it is because something within you is ready. Not by chance, not by luck, but by destiny. Picture yourself standing before a portal. On one side, the common view, symptoms treated as defects, illnesses as enemies, doctors as the only keepers of knowledge. On the other side, a space where body, mind, and spirit are not separate. Where every pain is a teacher, every sign a guide, every silence a remedy. Which of these paths do you feel belongs to you? This book does not bring ready-made recipes, but invitations. Invitations to remember that life speaks in its own language, sometimes through images, sometimes through dreams, sometimes through symptoms. And the greatest healing begins not when you fight against this, but when you allow yourself to listen. Today, more than ever, the world needs those who remember. The noise grows louder. Notifications, diagnoses, endless races against time. But in the midst of this chaos, healing does not shout. It whispers. It whispers in the rhythm of your breath, in the calm you feel when you close your eyes, in the intuition that comes without explanation. And the choice is always yours. Keep chasing external solutions, or finally stop and become part of the answer. You are not broken. You are not condemned. You are standing before a revelation too ancient to be ignored. The forbidden healing is not miracle, not magic, not superstition. It is remembrance. And every word here is an invitation for you to rediscover it within yourself. So, breathe deeply. Allow this first seed to sprout. Remember, the path opening now is not about learning something new, but about recalling what was never erased, only hidden. Forbidden healing begins the moment you accept crossing this threshold. Long before the word medicine became associated with sterile bottles, cold rooms, and diagnoses written on glowing screens, there was another kind of knowledge. Entire peoples trusted in rhythms, symbols, and rituals that required no microscopes to be understood. They looked to the sky, to the cycle of tides, to the fire crackling at the heart of the village, and understood that within this silent language lay codes of healing. Imagine a tribe gathered around the fire, children watching the elders chant repetitive melodies, songs that were not mere music, but vibrational keys capable of reorganizing sickened bodies. It was not superstition, but intuitive science, learned through centuries of observation. When someone fell ill, they weren't isolated as a problem to be fixed. They were placed at the center of the circle, where everyone sang, because they believed that the disharmony of one individual affected the harmony of the entire group. To heal one was to heal all. Today, accustomed to hospitals and industrial medicine, it may sound strange to imagine that the simple sound of a drum or the smoke of an herb could transform someone's health. But think about it. What does music do to you? How many times has a song completely shifted your state of mind? What memories awaken when you smell a fresh plant? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that, at some level, you've already experienced the medicine the ancients knew. Ancient peoples did not speak of viruses or bacteria. They spoke of imbalance. Illness was not seen as the enemy, but as a sign that life had fallen out of rhythm with the cosmos. To heal did not mean eliminating symptoms, but restoring rhythm. The rain, the wind, the moon, the sunrise, everything was language. And every human body was a reflection of those cycles. A simple example. When the moon waned in the sky, they believed fevers waned too. When certain constellations appeared, it was time to plant, harvest, and also to treat certain ailments. You may think it poetic, but is it really just poetry? Today we know our body is regulated by cycles, the circadian rhythms. We know the moon influences tides and that the human body is made largely of water. Were the ancients really so wrong? Or were they simply using another language to describe what modern science is still trying to grasp? Inside forgotten temples, inscriptions in stone showed spirals, suns, stars. They weren't mere drawings. They were reminders that life followed invisible patterns, and to understand those patterns was to understand health itself. The sick weren't received with the noise of machines, but with silence. Silence was the first medicine. For in silence, the wise said, the soul could hear itself again, and only then could the body follow. Now bring that image into your own life. How many times has your mind been so full of noise, worries, demands, endless thoughts, that your body began to complain? Headaches, fatigue, insomnia. What the ancients called disharmony we now call stress. The difference is that they knew how to restore harmony by creating space to listen. They understood something we have forgotten. The body is not only flesh. It is a vessel of light, a living reflection of the universe. When the sun rose, they knew it was time to revitalize. When night fell, they understood the body needed retreat. Everything was connected. To deny that connection was to deny health itself. Can you feel that memory within you? It is like a quiet pulse, an intuition that arises in moments of calm. Maybe you felt it when you walked barefoot on the earth, or when you lay beneath a starry sky and sensed something inside you reorganize effortlessly. These moments are not coincidence. They are remembrance, because the body has always known. Even when science forgets, even when modernity ignores, there is a memory hidden in every cell. The memory that you are part of the cosmos, not separate from it. Now I invite you to picture a scene. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself inside an ancient temple, stone perhaps or wood. The walls are covered in symbols and you realize they are not ornaments but maps. Each figure shows that life moves in rhythm, and your body dances to that same beat. You take a deep breath and the sound of your breath echoes like an ancestral drum. It feels less like imagining and more like remembering. Because that's the point. Forbidden healing is not found in complex formulas. It is found in remembering that health is symphony, not battle. You don't need to fight against the body. You need to walk with it. And the ancients knew this. If this message has resonated with you so far, if it made sense to recognize that the wisdom of healing did not die but remains alive in small signs, then I invite you to continue walking with me. Not just as a listener, but as part of something greater. If this message has made sense to you up to this point, I want to invite you to keep going with me on this journey. Subscribe to the channel. We are building this together, and reaching our first 1,000 subscribers is our first big step. Each person who joins strengthens this project and helps give voice to independent creators like me. And I want you to be part of this path, not only as a viewer, but as someone who shares your own experiences. Leave a comment about how you felt your life aligning lately. It could be a small change, a new thought, or even a story that marked your transformation. By sharing, you not only strengthen your own path, but you also inspire our entire community to see that change is real, possible, and already happening. Imagine for a moment that every sensation you have ever experienced was no accident. The pain that appeared without explanation, the fatigue that seemed unjustified, even that tightness in your chest during moments of silence, all of it can be read as language. Yet we have been taught to treat the body as if it were only a machine sending signals of failure, something to be corrected, fixed, quickly silenced. But the ancients knew something our hurried civilization has forgotten. The body never speaks for no reason. Every symptom is a letter sent from the soul to consciousness. And when you ignore that letter, it returns louder until it is finally read. How many times have you felt pain and thought only of eliminating it? How many times have you taken something just to silence the discomfort, never asking what that pain was trying to say? Today, medicines function like plugs. They muffle, but they do not resolve. It is as if someone placed a hand over your mouth while you were trying to warn of a fire. The fire does not disappear because the voice was silenced. On the contrary, it grows in the dark. The body is not betraying you when it falls ill. It is trying to speak. It is asking for attention to what the mind refused to hear. What if that weight on your shoulders was the sign of responsibilities carried beyond your limit? What if the headache that keeps coming back was the memory of a grief never fully lived? What if shallow breathing was fear, tied like an invisible knot, begging to be released? Every symptom can be seen this way, not as punishment, but as invitation. This is not superstition, but a reading of life. The body speaks in metaphors because it knows that the mind often only understands in images. Think of how your heart races when you fall in love. That is not imagination. It is biology. The body responds to the invisible with clear signals. In the same way, it responds to suffering that was never named, to emotions that were denied. The body is like a diary that never lies, even when the mind tries to hide the truth. The ancients understood this with simplicity. When someone coughed endlessly, they didn't only ask about the lungs. They asked about the sadness that had been stored away. When someone suffered constant stomach pain, they asked about the shame that had never been digested. They didn't just see organs, they saw stories. And by seeing stories, the body ceased to be a battlefield and became a sacred book. Today you can test this wisdom for yourself. Try placing your hand over the part of your body where you feel the most discomfort. Instead of trying to eliminate it, ask in silence, "What do you want me to know?" Do not expect words because the body speaks in sensations, memories, images. Maybe you'll remember something forgotten. Maybe you'll feel a quiet relief. Maybe a tear will rise without warning. That is the body responding. That listening is already medicine. The truth is that resistance amplifies suffering. When you run from pain, it screams louder. When you sit with it in silence, it softens. It is like a child crying. When ignored, it cries until breathless. When comforted, it finds calm. The body is that child in need of being heard. The gesture of saying, "I hear you," already changes your entire inner chemistry. The nervous system relaxes, inflammation decreases, and the body begins to reorganize itself. This is not just a spiritual concept, it is biology. Studies show that practices of mindfulness and acceptance reduce stress hormones, and strengthen the immune system. The body feels when it is heard. The body reorganizes itself when it is no longer treated as the enemy. You stop being a victim of illness and begin to be its partner, exploring what each sign is trying to teach. Think of moments in your own life when the body spoke louder than you wanted. Maybe sudden pain forced you to rest. Maybe unexpected exhaustion stopped you from keeping the pace you were pushing. Maybe a fever came precisely when you refused to slow down. How many times has the body not been just a barrier, but a healthy limit saying, "Enough. It's time to rethink the path"? The ancient peoples had no sophisticated tests, but they had this listening. When a shaman placed a hand on someone, he was not only searching for warmth in the skin, but the story that skin carried. When a healer observed the breath, he did not only count the seconds, but tried to hear the silences hidden between sighs. They understood there was no difference between body and soul. It was all one conversation, and now you can choose to resume that conversation, not to deny modern medicine, but to recover the forgotten half of it. Because without listening, without interpretation, without the courage to ask why, all healing remains incomplete. Today, when you feel pain, instead of just rushing toward immediate relief, you can choose to pause, to breathe, to place your hand on your chest, your stomach, any part that asks for attention, and simply say, "I am here. I hear you." And then wait. It is in that quiet space that the answer appears. Not as a manual, but as a sensation, as a subtle guide. The body is not an adversary. It is not broken. It is not the enemy. It is ally, interpreter, messenger. And the sooner you accept this role, the less you will need to fight against it. In this perspective, illness ceases to be a curse and becomes a conversation. Pain ceases to be an obstacle and becomes a teacher. Fatigue ceases to be a limit and becomes a signal. The body has always tried to warn you. It is up to you to decide if you will finally listen. This is the body's invitation. To transform the relationship you have with yourself. To stop seeing illness as failure and begin to see it as a sacred letter. To stop silencing symptoms and start deciphering them. Because only then can the messenger rest and the healing begin. Modern science, with all its advances, still sees the body as a sum of parts. Bones, muscles, nerves, cells. But the ancients had a different perception. To them, before flesh, there was breath. Before the organ, there was the energy that animated it. The body was seen as consequence, not cause. And perhaps that is why many still feel something doesn't add up when life is explained only through matter. Because what's missing is that which cannot be measured in laboratories, but is felt in every breath. The vital field. You may not see it, but you've already experienced it. It's the shiver that runs across your skin for no apparent reason. It's the warmth that rises in your chest when someone embraces you sincerely. It's the heaviness in the air when you step into a room charged with conflict. None of this can be reduced to mere muscles or hormones. There is an invisible field around you that responds to everything. This field is like a silent extension of your presence. It doesn't end at your skin. It spreads outward, interacts with what is near, and senses signals before the mind does. Different cultures gave it different names. Prana in India, Ki in China, Ruah in Hebrew traditions, the vital breath in many languages. All pointed to the same reality. You are more than a physical body. You are flow. You are energy in motion, vibrating constantly. When this energy flows, there is health. When it stagnates, symptoms appear. Illness, in this view, is not something invading from outside. It is the result of an interruption in the flow. And what creates this interruption? It can be unresolved emotional trauma. It can be a pattern of thought repeated to exhaustion. It can be the environment you live in. Anyone who has walked into a room full of tension knows the air feels heavy. That weight is not only on people's faces, it's in the invisible field. You breathe it in. Your body responds. In the same way, when you are near someone full of vitality, you feel renewed, as if their energy is contagious. This is not illusion. It is field interacting with field. Breath is a direct bridge to this flow. Notice, when you're anxious, You breathe short and fast, as if your body is trapped. When you're at peace, you breathe deep and slow, and you feel expansion. Breath is the thread connecting you to the invisible. It's not just oxygen moving in and out. It is energy moving. A single minute of conscious breathing can reorganize what seemed like chaos. It can dissolve an inner weight. It can even bring clarity to a difficult decision. And if breath is the bridge, imagination is the tool. Visualizing light moving through the body is not fantasy. It is instruction to the vital field. The brain does not fully distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. That is why when you picture energy flowing, the body responds as if it were happening. This is the basis of many ancestral practices. Using images to guide energy. Science is beginning to approach this mystery. Electromagnetic studies show that the heart creates a measurable field around the body. This field changes as your emotions change. Anger creates a chaotic pattern. Gratitude creates a harmonic one. When you cultivate inner states, you're not just feeling different. You are literally changing the quality of the field you emit into the world. And this field, in turn, communicates with your body, your cells, your immune system. This is not metaphor. It is subtle physiology. The ancients already knew this even without machines to measure it. That's why they taught that thoughts and emotions were not just inner events, but currents circulating through the vital field. And that if you carried fear or resentment, you would create blockages, dense points that sooner or later would reflect in the body. In the same way, when you cultivated states of love or reverence, you opened space for flow, and the body flourished. Think of what happens when you hold on to resentment for years. You don't have to speak it, you don't have to show it. Even in silence, you feel something heavy following you. That weight is stagnant energy. The body carries it, the muscles tighten, the skin reflects it. That's why people often say, "You look lighter," when someone finally lets go of an old hurt. The field shifts, and the body shifts with it. Now bring this awareness to yourself. How is your field today? Do you feel expansion or contraction, movement or heaviness? Often, it is not the number of tasks, but the quality of energy that determines your state. A full day lived in flow can feel light. A seemingly calm day lived in blockage can feel exhausting. Recognizing that you are field is to reclaim sovereignty, because it means you are not bound to chance. You can learn to move energy. You can breathe consciously. You can imagine light circulating. You can choose environments and companions that strengthen instead of drain you. And every small choice shapes the field. And the field shapes the body. The ancients saw the body as a river. When the water flows, everything along its banks flourishes. When water is stagnant, it rots. The vital energy is that water. You can choose to open pathways, remove stones, create movement. It doesn't need to be grand. A single moment of daily silence already clears the way. A thought of gratitude already changes the rhythm. A deep breath already creates space. The forbidden healing doctors tried to erase lies here, not treating the body only as a mechanism, but as a flow. You are not a machine that breaks. You are a river that needs to move. If the river encounters blockages, it is not enough to just patch the leaks. What blocks the current must be removed. And you can begin right now, without drugs, without complex rituals, simply by remembering that each breath is energy in motion, and each emotion is instruction to the field. From now on, when you feel pain or fatigue, instead of only asking, "What is wrong with me?" ask, "Where has the energy stopped flowing?" That question opens doors. The answer may come as a memory, an intuition, or simply a sense of relief. The field responds to those willing to listen. And the key is this: not control, but allowance. Because vital energy does not need to be created. It is already here. It only needs to be released. It only needs a passage. You are more than a body. You are field. And remembering this is opening the door to a healing that never should have been forgotten. There are moments when life feels unfair. People who have always taken care of their health suddenly face unexpected illness. Others, who never worried much, seem to go on just fine. Some live through crisis after crisis, losing a job, falling sick, facing heartbreak, all at once. the inevitable question arises: why? Is everything ruled by chance? Or is there a hidden pattern, an invisible architecture shaping our experiences? The ancients called it destiny, a soul contract, the original design. The word we use doesn't matter. What matters is understanding that nothing that happens is mere accident. There is a kind of inner blueprint, a spiritual floor plan that shapes the path of every human being. This blueprint is not a rigid map, like a track that cannot be left. It is more like a musical score. The main melody is already there, but the way you interpret it depends on your choices. There are notes that must be played, encounters that must happen, challenges you could never avoid. But there is also freedom. How you react, how you stand before the inevitable. That part is yours to choose. Illness, pain, loss, all of them can be seen through this lens. Not as punishment, but as rehearsals for the soul. As if each obstacle were an invitation to ask, do you truly want to grow? Or would you rather remain where you are? Sometimes life pushes hard. Not to destroy you, but to test whether your transformation is real or only on the surface. Think of someone who went through a great hardship and years later says, that experience changed me. It may have been painful, it may have demanded tears and sleepless nights, but in the end, something transformed forever. The blueprint works like this. It places experiences on your path that function as portals. Passing through them is inevitable, but the way you cross is up to you. Some call them trials, others call them spiritual contracts. Still others speak of natural law. All these names point to the same phenomenon. There is something in you that chose to learn certain lessons even before you came here. Life then takes care of creating the circumstances so those lessons can be lived. Denying them does not erase them. Accepting them opens the way. And here lies a crucial point. When you refuse to cross, life repeats. A pattern returns until it is understood. That is why so many people feel they are always attracting the same kind of situation. The same conflict, the same pain, the same sense of failure. The blueprint insists, not out of cruelty, but out of fidelity to what your soul came to experience. As long as you resist, the cycle continues. When you finally understand, the cycle dissolves. From this perspective, illness is also a code, not just a problem of the body, but a symbol in the soul's design. A persistent pain may be the reminder of something that must be resolved at the deepest level. An accident may be the portal that forces a complete change in the way you live. They are not punishments, but signs that the melody is asking for a new interpretation. It is hard to accept this when you are in the middle of the storm. The mind cries, "Why me? Why now?" But if you take a step back and look from a distance, you may see that every crisis opened the way for something that could not exist otherwise. That every loss made space for new encounters. That every ending was, in secret, preparation for a beginning. The blueprint never misses the melody. And more, it is not only about individual experiences. Many times, what you live is not just about you. Entire families carry repeating patterns, addictions, silence, conflicts. When someone awakens and decides to break the cycle, they are not living only for themselves, but for all who came before and all who will come after. It is as if one soul, by aligning with its blueprint, could release generations. This is where purpose and healing meet. Purpose is not a career, a title, or an external achievement. Purpose is living in coherence with the soul's design. It is listening to what the body, the dreams, the signs of life have been trying to say, and instead of running away, responding with presence. When you find this alignment, even pain takes on meaning. It stops being an enemy and becomes a guide. Perhaps you have already felt it. The sense of being exactly where you are meant to be, even if the path was difficult. That is what we call synchronicity. The blueprint acts as an invisible conductor, orchestrating encounters, coincidences, signs that may seem subtle but carry the weight of centuries. Each time you listen to this call, you strengthen the connection with purpose. Each time you ignore it, you feel more lost, more empty, more distant from yourself. This blueprint cannot be erased. It is written into you, not as a sentence, but as a song. And every choice you make can bring you closer to or further from the melody. When you choose to live out of tune, the body protests, the mind fragments, life places obstacles. When you choose alignment, everything begins to flow. It does not mean the absence of challenges, but the presence of meaning. Here is the key. Forbidden healing is not limited to solving symptoms. It requires decoding the blueprint. It requires accepting that there is more at play than immediate logic can see. It requires trusting that each step, no matter how strange or painful it seems, is part of a greater design. The soul did not come only to survive. It came to remember who it is. It came to play the song that was written long ago in the silence of the stars. So next time life presents you with an unexpected challenge, instead of only asking, "How do I get rid of this?" try asking, "What is my soul trying to show me now?" That question opens doors, because where there is purpose, even pain gains dignity. And where there is dignity, healing begins to be born. There is something modern science cannot fully explain, even though it has witnessed it countless times: the power of belief. Doctors call it the placebo effect when someone improves simply because they believe they are receiving an effective treatment, even if it's just a sugar pill. They call it the nocebo effect when the opposite happens, when someone gets worse because they believe something will harm them, even when it has no harmful substance at all. But beyond the technical names, what's really at play is the truth the ancients already knew. What you believe shapes the reality your body experiences. Think of how many stories you've heard of people defying medical statistics. People who were given discouraging diagnoses and, against all predictions, lived far beyond what was expected. This is not about denying science, but about remembering that it still does not fully understand the mystery of the mind over the body. Because when someone deeply believes in something, the entire organism begins to work in coherence with that belief. Hormones shift, neurotransmitters reorganize, cells receive different instructions. The body follows the direction the mind points to. The opposite is just as true. When someone believes there is no way out, when they convince themselves they are condemned, the body obeys that invisible sentence. The immune system weakens, defenses fall, vitality fades. This is not a metaphor. It is biology programmed by thought. That is why faith has never been only a religious concept, but a concrete force, capable of reorganizing an entire life. Ancient cultures understood this clearly. In villages, in temples, in deserts, on mountaintops, what sustained health was not only the herb or the ritual, but the trust of the one receiving it. If the sick believed they were receiving something sacred, that conviction already activated healing within them. The herb, the chant, the gesture were channels, but the main force came from faith. It did not matter whether they called it gods, spirits, or ancestors. What truly transformed was the deep certainty of being supported by something greater. That certainty creates room for the extraordinary. And I do not mean miracles as in breaking the laws of nature, but as in activating laws we do not yet fully understand. Faith opens doors within the unconscious, doors locked by doubt and fear. When those doors open, the body reorganizes itself, as if remembering a potential that had always been there, but was asleep. Perhaps you've already experienced this on a smaller scale. When you believed you could overcome a challenge and suddenly found strength you didn't know you had. When you trusted a path and, as if by coincidence, opportunities appeared as though designed for you. This is not merely psychological. It is faith aligning body and vital field, belief reorganizing energy and matter. But here is an important detail. Belief cannot be forced. Pretending to believe does not produce the same effect. The body knows the difference between true conviction and mechanical repetition. That is why so many people try to repeat positive phrases without really feeling them, and in the end, nothing changes. Authentic faith is not a shout. It is a deep silence. It is a quiet, unshakable certainty that rises from within. How do you cultivate this faith? It is not about adopting external beliefs, but about finding your own root of trust. It may be in something divine, it may be in life as cosmic intelligence, it may be simply in yourself. What matters is that this trust is real, that you allow yourself to feel you are not walking alone. That sensation alone reorganizes biology. The ancients called it an alliance. It was as if the human being made a pact with the invisible, believing that life would not abandon them. When that pact was made, the body opened to new possibilities. Illnesses were endured, pain was transformed, destinies were altered. Not because external reality changed immediately, but because inner vision had shifted. And when vision changes, the world responds. Even today, with all our technology, we still see this mystery. How many doctors report cases they cannot explain? Why someone got better? How many times do scientists themselves admit that, beyond the protocols, it was the patient's attitude that made the difference? Faith does not replace medicine, but it strengthens it. Without it, even the best resources become limited. With it, even the simplest resources can bring remarkable results. Faith is, in essence, a realignment with life. It is as if you said, "I trust what is coming," even without understanding all the details. That trust dissolves fear, and when fear decreases, the body finds space to reorganize. The nervous system relaxes, hormones balance, the heart finds rhythm. Faith is not only psychological comfort, it is inner technology. And here is the deepest point. Forbidden healing can only grow in the soil of faith. Because without faith, every teaching is lost. You can hear the wisest words, you can receive the oldest rituals, you can practice the most refined techniques, but if you don't believe, nothing holds. Faith is the code that activates everything else. So the invitation is simple, and at the same time challenging. Ask yourself what you truly believe in, not what you were told to believe, not what sounds nice to repeat, but what truly sustains your soul when everything falls apart. That belief is the root of your healing. That silent pact is what can transform your entire journey. Life will always give you reasons to doubt. The diagnosis may be heavy, the situation may seem impossible, the statistics may be cold. But faith is the ability to see beyond the immediate, to trust in the invisible, to believe that something is moving even when your eyes cannot see. And when you anchor yourself in that, the body responds, the energy flows, and reality begins to align. We live surrounded by noise. The clock that never stops, the notifications that blink, the voices competing for space inside and outside of us. It seems impossible to find a single moment when nothing demands immediate attention. But the ancients knew something we've forgotten. Silence is not absence. It is presence. It is not emptiness. It is medicine. When the noise is removed, something begins to emerge. It is as if the body, finally free from the flood of stimuli, could listen to what had been whispering all along. And it is in that space of listening that healing begins. Silence regulates the nervous system, reorganizes brain waves, calms the heart. But more than that, silence restores your contact with the part of you that never gets sick. The untouched spark that remains even in the midst of chaos. You may have already felt this. A moment alone in nature, when the sound of the wind spoke louder than 1,000 words. A quiet dawn, when the stillness of your home brought an inexplicable peace. Or even during deep pain, when closing your eyes and sinking into silence became the only true relief. These moments are not trivial. They are reminders that silence is an ancient medicine, free, eternal, always available. In spiritual traditions, silence was treated as a portal. Monks spent years in silence not as punishment but as a way to attune the soul. Shamans sought caves and forests to retreat into silence before leading rituals. Silence was the condition for hearing the invisible, because only when noise ends can the voice of life become clear. The body responds to silence in surprising ways. Studies show that deep periods of silence lower blood pressure, strengthen the immune system, and even stimulate neural regeneration. But long before laboratories confirmed it, the sages already knew. Silence heals. It heals not only because it soothes, but because it reveals. When you enter silence, what was hidden begins to appear. Emotions pushed aside rise to the surface. Forgotten memories return. Silence is not only pleasant, it is challenging. Because in it there are no distractions. In it you meet yourself without masks. And it is in that meeting that forbidden healing takes place. When inner truth, no matter how painful, finally finds room to be heard. Perhaps that is why so many avoid silence. Noise works as escape. When you keep your mind busy, you don't have to hear what is screaming inside you. But the more you run, the more the body protests. Insomnia arrives, anxiety rises, fatigue builds up. The body asks for silence because only in silence can it reorganize itself. In silence, something invisible happens. The heart finds a more harmonious rhythm. The breath deepens, the muscles soften. But beyond that, it is as if a greater order reestablishes itself. The inner chaos begins to reorganize into patterns. It is like looking at a stormy lake. When the wind stops, the water calms, and the reflection becomes clear again. Silence is that stilling of the wind, and it doesn't require a distant monastery or a mountain escape. Silence can be cultivated now, in this very moment. It can be 2 minutes with your eyes closed before bed. It can be turning off your phone and simply listening to your own breathing. It can be watching the sunrise without rushing. The length of time doesn't matter. What matters is the quality of presence. The medicine of silence does not stop at the body. It reaches the soul. Because when the noise ends, you realize you were never alone. There is a greater intelligence holding every detail. In silence, that presence reveals itself, not with words, but with certainty. A quiet, powerful certainty. You are supported, you belong, you are part of the whole. And here lies the secret. Silence is the only remedy no one can control. No laboratory can patent it, no market can monopolize it. It has always been available, waiting for someone to remember its value. Perhaps that is why it was forgotten. Because those who discover the power of silence also discover their own freedom. Now allow yourself to imagine. What if you incorporated moments of silence into your life? Not just as pause, but as ritual. What would it be like to wake up and before looking outward, turn inward? What would it be like to face a challenge and before reacting, enter silence for a few moments to hear the direction of your soul? What would it be like if, instead of seeking answers everywhere, you allowed them to rise out of silence? This is not just another practice. It is a return to the space where forbidden healing blooms. Because in silence there are no masks, no distractions, no noise to drown out the truth. There is only you, life, and the call that echoes. And when you open to that call, you discover that many of the answers you've been searching for were already within you. Silence is the forgotten medicine, the simplest and the deepest. It costs nothing, it depends on no one, it doesn't need to be learned, it only needs to be allowed. And when you allow it, you remember. Peace is not something to be reached. It is something that has always been there, waiting for the moment you decide to listen. There is a silent pharmacy within you. It is not made of shelves, or colorful bottles, or complicated instructions. This pharmacy is invisible and yet absolutely real. It is your emotions. Every feeling you cultivate is like a dose of medicine or poison that your body must process. Joy, for instance, releases a cascade of substances that strengthen immunity, balance blood pressure, and soothe the heart. Anger, when held inside, poisons the blood, hardens the muscles, and wears down the organs. These are not just metaphors. The body reads emotions as commands, and every emotion you feel becomes chemistry flowing through your veins. For centuries, this truth was known intuitively. Ancient peoples did not separate body and soul. They knew that sadness could weigh on the chest as if crushing the breath, and that fear could poison the stomach until a person fell ill. Today, science confirms what they already understood. Research shows that positive emotions regulate the nervous system, reduce inflammation, and prolong life, while repressed negative emotions can open the door to chronic disease. But it is not only biological, it is also spiritual. Because when you feel gratitude, love, or compassion, it is not only the body that improves, It is your vibration that aligns with something greater, and life around you responds differently. Think of how you feel when you laugh, truly laugh. Not a forced laugh, but the kind that rises unexpectedly, shaking your whole body. After that laugh, your mind feels lighter, your problems seem smaller, even physical pain may lessen. That laugh is not just amusement, it is medicine. In the same way, think of the heaviness you carry when you feed resentment. It is as if every painful memory were an iron weight chained to your chest. And no matter how much you try to ignore it, the body always remembers, through tension, fatigue, sleepless nights. Most people try to escape emotional pain by avoiding it. They repress tears, hide their anger, pretend everything is fine. But emotions do not disappear simply because they are hidden. They accumulate, turning into density, into blockage, into rigidity. The body stores what the mind refuses to face, and sooner or later, it manifests as symptoms. That is why the forbidden healing they tried to suppress begins right here, with the courage to feel. To feel is to allow emotion to complete its natural cycle. Sadness asks for tears, and tears cleanse. Anger asks for movement, and movement releases. Fear asks for acceptance, and acceptance dissolves it. When you open yourself to feel, instead of repressing, you transform emotion back into energy. It is like thawing frozen rivers, allowing the waters to flow again. This is the true inner pharmacy. Emotions that, once acknowledged, become forces of healing. But there is an important detail. It is not enough to feel blindly. Awareness is required, because feeling with awareness is what transforms. An outburst of anger without awareness can wound, but anger lived with attention can show the boundaries you need to set. Unconscious sadness may lead to despair, but conscious sadness can open the door to compassion. Emotion itself is not the enemy. It is how you receive it that decides whether it becomes poison or medicine. This was once common practice, still preserved in ancient rituals. Entire peoples gathered to weep together in times of grief. They knew that collective mourning was not weakness, but purification. Others gathered to sing and dance, releasing anger and fear through the body. It was a way of transforming emotions into communal medicine. Today, too often, we do the opposite. Each one suffers alone, carrying weight that could have been dissolved if shared. And here a reflection arises. Which emotions have you been avoiding? Perhaps an anger stored for years. Perhaps a sadness that was never cried. Perhaps a fear you never admitted. They are all still there, waiting. Not to destroy you, but to show you something. Because emotion is always a message, always the soul's language, asking to be heard. Now imagine allowing yourself to welcome that forgotten emotion, not as an enemy, but as a visitor. You sit in silence and breathe deeply. You place your hand over your chest and say to yourself, I allow you to exist. In that instant, the body understands it does not need to fight what it feels. The breath deepens, tension begins to soften. And it is at this point that emotion stops being poison and becomes medicine. There are people who describe feeling immediate relief when they allow tears to flow after years of holding back. Others say that by screaming or writing out what they felt, an old physical pain disappeared. This is not magic, it is coherence. The body only asks that you be honest with yourself. And if there is one emotion that transforms like no other, it is gratitude. Gratitude is the simplest and most powerful elixir. When you truly give thanks, the chemistry of the body changes. The heart expands, the nervous system calms, the mind sees with greater clarity. Gratitude does not erase problems, but it changes the way you carry them. And many times, that is enough for the problem to dissolve on its own. The secret of the inner pharmacy is remembering that every emotion is energy in motion. If you let it flow, it heals. If you block it, it poisons. You do not need to fear what you feel. You only need to learn to listen, to welcome, and to release. When you do, you will discover that the remedies you searched for outside were always within you. Emotions are the soul's most direct messages. They are the call to live in truth. They are the invitation to free yourself from the invisible chains you placed on yourself. The body never forgets. but it never stops offering a second chance. With every emotion honored, you step closer to your own freedom. The body is like an ancient book, filled with pages not written by you alone. Every line, every mark carries stories that cross generations. Wounds that were never healed in past lives or family lineages often find shelter in the blood, the bones, the silent memory the body carries. That is why, so often, a pain feels larger than life itself. It is not only yours, it is inheritance. Science calls it epigenetics. Spirituality calls it ancestral cords. Both speak of the same mystery. What is not resolved in one generation flows into the next until someone has the courage to face it, feel it, and transform it. How many times have you asked yourself, why do I carry this weight when nothing in my life explains such deep pain? Perhaps because that pain did not begin with you, but found in you a space to be remembered. Many ancient peoples recognized this naturally. They did not see illness as something merely individual, but as a sign that something in the family, the clan, the collective was out of balance. When someone fell ill, rituals were performed not just for the person but for all the ancestors present and absent. There were chants, dances, offerings, fires burning through the night. It was not superstition, it was wisdom. It was the recognition that life is a continuous chain, and that when one link weakens, the entire chain asks to be restored. You may feel within yourself a fear you never understood, a sadness with no clear cause, a rage that rises without reason. These signals may be echoes of your lineage. The heart carries the muffled cries of those who could not speak. The blood carries the anxiety of those who lived through persecution, wars, exile. The bones hold memories of loss, hunger, and forced silences. None of this is coincidence. It is transmission, it is calling. But carrying it does not mean you are condemned. On the contrary, carrying is an invitation, a call to be the link that transforms the chain. What your ancestors could not resolve, you have the chance to illuminate, not as burden but as mission. You are not a prisoner of the past. You are the guardian of the opportunity to set yourself, and those who came before, free. Imagine a golden chain stretching out behind you. Each link is an ancestor, known and unknown, loved and forgotten. Some shine brightly, representing the strength and wisdom you inherited. Others are rusted, representing pains and traumas left unresolved. You are connected to all, but you also hold in your hands the power to polish, to heal, to restore. By welcoming the wounds that have reached you, something transforms not only in your life, but in the collective memory of your lineage. This is not abstract. How many families repeat the same patterns? Alcoholism passing through generations, violence repeating between parents and children, abandonment becoming a constant mark. It happens because unacknowledged pain returns to be lived until someone decides to break the cycle. That someone could be you. The process is not simple. At times, it demands courage to feel pains that have no face. It is like entering an old house filled with dark rooms. Every door you open reveals a memory. A grandmother who suffered in silence. A great-grandfather who lived in scarcity. An uncle who died unheard. Each memory asks not for judgment, but for acknowledgement. You do not need to carry their suffering as your own, but you need to recognize it so it may finally rest. Close your eyes, place your hand over your heart, and say, I see you, I honor your story, and I choose to release what no longer needs to be carried. This simple phrase can have a profound effect, because ancestral pain does not ask for revenge, it asks for recognition. It persists only because it was never heard. When you look at it with love, the weight dissolves. At the same time, it is not only about releasing wounds. Ancestral cords also carry gifts. Creativity, resilience, wisdom, spiritual gifts, talents you may not even understand where they came from. Honoring the ancestors means recognizing both the pain and the strength. It means drinking from the well they opened, while refusing to drink from the poison they could not leave behind. A simple ritual can awaken this awareness. Picture yourself before a fire. Behind you stand all your ancestors watching in silence. You hold a golden rope in your hands. With every inhale, you feel their strength flowing into you. With every exhale, you release the pain that is not yours to keep. Slowly, the rope grows lighter, and you sense you are not alone. You are supported by thousands of lives, but you are not enslaved to them. You are the continuation, and you can choose another way. And in doing so, it is not only you who heals. It is as if each wounded ancestor finally receives the chance to rest, as if each future generation receives the gift of walking lighter. Ancestral healing is an act of love that transcends time. It is the recognition that we are bridges between past and future. If you feel this message stirring something deep within your soul, perhaps that is your calling. To be the one who ends the cycle, who transforms pain into wisdom, who restores to your lineage the dignity and the light that were forgotten. When night falls and the eyes close, something within us awakens. It is as if the soul takes advantage of the pause of the conscious mind to speak in its own language, the language of dreams. While we believe we are only resting, symbols, settings, and characters parade before us as if in a secret theater staged for an audience of one. But this theater is not mere imagination. It is the oldest and most precise way the soul has found to prescribe remedies, reveal wounds, and point to paths of healing. For thousands of years, dreams were treated as oracles. Kings consulted interpreters before making decisions. Warriors awaited nightly signs before going into battle. Entire peoples interpreted harvests, rains, or cures through the images received in dreams. It was respected knowledge, seen as direct messages from the invisible. Today, in a world that idolizes only what can be measured, dreams have been reduced to mere brain products. And yet anyone who has ever woken disturbed by a persistent vision knows there is something there that cannot be ignored. The body speaks during the day, but the soul speaks during the night. When waking life grows silent, the soul writes messages in symbols. A broken house may reveal the fragility of a family. A constant storm may be repressed anger seeking expression. A wild animal chasing you may be the hidden face of an old fear or an instinct left unintegrated. None of these images is random. All carry code, all are instructions. Dreams work like a nightly pharmacy. A dream of light can restore hope. A dream of reconciliation can release grudges that seemed eternal. A dream of death, instead of being an omen, may simply mean the need to end a cycle so that another can begin. They are prescriptions disguised as stories. Remedies the conscious mind would not accept while awake, delivered in symbolic packages so the soul can receive them. How many times have you dreamed of someone you hadn't seen in years and, upon waking, realized there was still something unresolved? How many times have you dreamed of falling, of being chased, of strange places, and then recognized that those scenarios reflected the state of your life? That is the power of the dream. It ignores our masks and touches the root. It reveals what pride, fear, or rationality insist on hiding. And yet, we were never taught to honor this gift. Most people wake and discard their nightly images as mental debris. But those who choose to write them down, reflect on them, and engage in dialogue with their dreams discover they are secret maps. Every repetition, every detail, every sensation is a thread of light leading both to the origin of pain and to the way out. The ancients created rituals for this. Upon waking, they described their dreams in chants. They carved symbols into stones or painted them. They gathered to share visions and find collective meaning. They believed that each dream was not just individual, but also a message for the community. This practice may have been forgotten, but the need remains alive, because dreams are still the place where the soul speaks with greatest clarity. You can reclaim this practice in simple ways. Before you lie down, set an intention. Do not only ask to rest, ask to receive instruction. A sincere request made in silence opens the door to the symbolic language. Then when you wake, do not dismiss the fragments. Write them down, even if they seem disconnected. Often the message does not appear in a single dream, but in repetitions across nights. It is like a prescription being given piece by piece until the picture is complete. Some say dreaming is living in two worlds. In the first, the waking world, We obey the rules of time, space, and logic. In the second, the dream world, we touch the deepest truth, the one that will not bend to reason. And it is in this second world that the remedies of the soul are prepared. For there are no masks, no distractions, no barriers. There is only essence trying to speak. Perhaps you ask, how can I tell a common dream from one that carries a message? The answer is simple. The dreams with messages do not fade easily. They stay in memory. They disturb. They insist. Sometimes they return again and again. It is as if they knock at the door until you finally choose to open. They do not want to be ignored because they carry something essential. You may be surprised to realize that often dreams bring healing even before you understand the message. There are stories of people who, after dreaming of pure waters or cleansing rituals, woke feeling lighter, as if a burden had been dissolved. Others tell of dreams with lights, outstretched hands, encounters with unknown figures, and upon waking they felt renewed courage. This is not illusion. It is the nightly pharmacy working in silence. The invitation is simple. Trust what you dream. Not as superstition, but as one who receives an intimate letter. Allow yourself to recognize that the soul is far too wise to waste hours every night. Dreams are not garbage. They are letters written in an ancient tongue. It is up to you to learn to read them. By honoring your dreams, you do more than find answers. You reconnect with the part of yourself that never forgot who you truly are. This is the forbidden healing, the remembrance that even sleep is an instrument of transformation, that even the night is a field of revelation. When you awaken ready to honor what you dreamed, the following day is never the same. Breathing seems like the simplest gesture in the world, so automatic that most people move through their days without even noticing they are breathing. But behind this seemingly ordinary act lies a secret that has passed through civilizations. The breath of life is not just air moving in and out of the lungs, it is energy circulating, healing happening in every moment. Breath is the bridge between body and soul, between the visible and the invisible. The ancients revered it as something sacred. In India, they called it prana, the vital flow that sustains every cell. In China, they spoke of qi, the energy that runs through the body and organizes all things. For indigenous peoples, it was the breath of the Great Spirit giving movement to life itself. In every culture, breathing was seen not just as a physiological necessity, but as an instrument of transformation. Breathing was a ritual, not a mechanical habit. And if you pay attention, you'll see that breath reflects the inner state. When the mind is restless, breath becomes shallow, rapid, almost caught in the throat. When the heart is at peace, breath lengthens, deep and steady, filling the body like a calm river. Breath exposes the soul. More than that, it shapes the soul. Because when you change the rhythm of your breath, you change the rhythm of your life. How many times in moments of despair has someone told you, take a deep breath? It's not an empty suggestion. The simple act of inhaling fully and exhaling slowly activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the one responsible for restoring balance, reducing anxiety, relaxing the muscles. It's as if the body carries within itself a hidden switch, and that switch is turned on by the way you breathe. But the power of breath goes far beyond immediate relief. It can unlock buried memories, dissolve old tensions, awaken states of consciousness that usually remain dormant. Anyone who has practiced conscious breathing knows. Tears can rise unexpectedly, forgotten memories can resurface, an inexplicable peace can fill the entire body. It's not magic. It is life, in its purest form, breaking through barriers and opening space for healing. Breathing is also remembering that life is not a constant race but a flow. Every inhale brings in the new. Every exhale releases the old. To inhale is to receive. To exhale is to let go. At its core, breath is a daily teaching on balance. Nothing can only enter or only leave. There must be giving and receiving, holding and releasing. When you hold your breath, you hold life itself. When you let go, life flows again. And perhaps that's why so many traditions connected breathing with spirituality. Breath has always been a symbol of spirit. When someone died, people said their breath had left them. When a baby was born, the first inhale was celebrated as the soul's arrival. Breathing is the first and the last act of every human being, and between those two ends unfolds the entire journey. What we do with each breath in between is our choice. Today, in a world saturated with speed and anxiety, regaining awareness of the breath is regaining the key to a forgotten healing. It's not about complex techniques, but about presence. Closing the eyes, inhaling slowly, feeling the air expand the chest, then exhaling gently, releasing tension. This simple gesture can transform the body, clear the mind, and calm the heart. But there are also deeper practices, taught by ancient masters. Some breaths warm, others cool. Some raise energy into states of ecstasy. In all of them, the logic is the same: to use breath to move vital energy, to clear blockages, to restore natural flow. Breath is like a river that can be guided to irrigate dry lands within you. Imagine now inhaling deeply, as if drawing in not just air, but light. Feel this light descending through the lungs, spreading through the body, reaching every cell. Then, as you exhale, imagine releasing shadows, burdens, accumulated pain. Repeat this cycle a few times and notice, no matter where you are, you can transform your inner world with breath alone. The body responds immediately, as if it had only been waiting for the signal to reorganize. This is the beauty of breath. It is always available. No matter your condition, no matter your age, no matter your moment. As long as there is breath, there is a way. And every conscious breath is like a reminder. You are not trapped. You are not without choice. There is always something that can be renewed within you. Perhaps doctors tried to erase this wisdom because it is too simple, because it cannot be patented, bottled, or controlled in laboratories. But precisely for this reason, it is so powerful. Breath is the healing that depends on no one but you. It is the medicine that cannot be denied to any human being. And now, if you close your eyes for a moment and simply take a deep breath, you may notice it is already happening. The calm that arrives, the clarity that awakens, the silent strength that settles within. This is the breath reminding you that life has never stopped flowing. Even when everything seems stuck, even when everything seems dark, there is always a thread of air sustaining your existence. That thread is also a thread of hope. In the end, breathing is more than living. It is remembering. Remembering that you are part of the whole, that life circulates in you and through you, that you do not need to chase what is already present. Every breath is a forgotten gift. Every inhale, an opportunity for healing. And every moment you connect to your own breath is a moment when the forbidden cure begins to bloom once again. No force is more underestimated in the modern world than love. It has been reduced to romance, to fleeting emotion, to stories told in films. But for the ancients, love was recognized as vital force, the highest frequency capable of crossing barriers, dissolving wounds, and restoring even what seemed lost. Love, in this sense, is not a passing feeling. It is a state of being. It is a deep medicine that cannot be bought or manufactured, only cultivated and allowed. When someone is truly loved, the body responds immediately. The heart finds a more harmonious rhythm. The immune system strengthens. The mind becomes clearer. The loving presence of someone at the side of a sick person, for example, can have effects no medicine can reach. How many stories have we heard of patients who, surrounded by care and affection, recovered beyond all expectations? What happened there was not magic, but biology responding to the force of love. But the love we speak of here goes far beyond the romantic dimension. It is unconditional presence. The kind of love that does not demand, does not manipulate, does not keep score. It simply is. This love can be felt in a silent embrace, in a gaze free of judgment, in the attentive listening of a friend. It is in these simple gestures that the soul feels recognized, and when it feels recognized, it opens to healing. The absence of this love creates invisible wounds. Children who grew up without affection carry deep marks that manifest in the adult body. People who lived under constant criticism develop an internal chemistry of fear, of permanent alert, of distrust. These states quietly shape health, draining vitality little by little. The lack of love is not just emotional. It is a disease that spreads silently. On the other hand, when someone allows themselves to live in the field of love, the body flourishes. Love does not only strengthen, it reorganizes. It creates an inner space where fear cannot dominate, where pain finds relief, where life regains meaning. Because love is not distraction, it is presence. It does not erase problems, but it changes the way you face them. It is like walking through a dark forest with a flame in your hand. The darkness remains, but the flame guides every step. The medicine of love also extends to how you treat yourself. Many live waiting to receive love from others, yet never learn to offer love to themselves. And the body feels this absence. The body becomes sick when treated with harshness, when denied rest, when constantly criticized and demanded. The body flourishes when treated with respect, with care, with tenderness. Self-love, far from being selfishness, is the first step toward healing. Now imagine placing your hand on your own chest and simply saying, "I am here with you." Not as if speaking to someone else, but as if speaking to yourself. This simple gesture, repeated in silence, is already a form of medicine. Because the body needs to know it is not alone, that you, the consciousness dwelling within it, will not abandon it. This inner dialogue is the foundation of what we call loving presence, and when this presence expands outward, it creates a network of healing. A word spoken with compassion can soothe old wounds. A hug offered at the right moment can restore hope. Shared love has a multiplying effect. It does not run out when given. On the contrary, it grows. The more it is offered, the stronger it becomes. That is why so many spiritual traditions pointed to love as the central key to life. There was no practice, ritual, or teaching that was not infused with loving presence. Still, some confuse love with attachment or submission. The love we speak of here does not imprison, does not weaken, does not depend on control. It is a force that liberates, a space that allows the other to be who they are, a presence that sustains without demanding anything in return. When this kind of love is lived, it becomes the most powerful antidote against loneliness, against despair, against existential emptiness. The medicine of love may have been considered forbidden because it cannot be bottled, cannot be sold, cannot be monopolized. It is too simple for a world that complicates everything. And at the same time, it is too revolutionary, because it gives back to human beings a power that depends on no external system. Love is the remedy no one can deny, and perhaps for that very reason it has been forgotten. Because it is uncontrollable, because it cannot be chained. And now, if you think of the moments in your life when you felt most alive, most whole, you will realize they all share something in common. The presence of love. It may have been in the gaze of someone dear. It may have been in a moment of self-discovery. It may even have been in the silence of a prayer. What mattered was not the circumstance, but the frequency. And that frequency is the same one you can cultivate now in every instant. Healing through love and presence requires nothing more than the willingness to be with yourself without judgment, to be with another without trying to change them, to be with life without wishing it were different. This is the medicine that passes through everything, that touches the deepest places, that restores even what once seemed impossible. In the end, love is not merely a path to healing. Love is the very essence of healing. Because when you are in love, you are in harmony with life. And when you are in harmony, nothing can remain broken for long. We have arrived at the point where every thread of this tapestry comes together. We spoke of the body as messenger, of the vital field that flows through us, of the soul's blueprint, of faith, of silence, of emotions, of ancestry, of dreams, of breath, and of love. Each chapter of this journey revealed a different face of the same secret. Life is not fragmented, not made of isolated parts. Life is a living whole, a pulsing fabric in which every gesture, every thought, every emotion, every breath participates in the same dance. And this dance is not only individual, it is cosmic. What you feel vibrates into the field that touches other fields. What you believe shapes realities that intertwine with those of others. What you heal within yourself resonates beyond you, reverberating through those who came before and those who will come after. Nothing is separate. And when you truly understand this, something changes forever. Healing is no longer only about closing wounds. Healing becomes about remembering who you are, part of a life that was never broken, even when everything seemed shattered. The forbidden secret, the one so many tried to erase, is simple and at the same time revolutionary. You never needed external permission to access your own source of healing. It has always been within you, in your tears, in your laughter, in your silence, in your love, in your breath. Every moment of your life has been an invitation, every symptom a message, every dream a letter. What was missing was never power, it was listening. And if you look back, you will see that even the hardest moments were leading you here. The pain that once felt unbearable taught you the strength you never knew you had. The loss that seemed so unjust opened space for a new chapter. The emptiness that felt like condemnation became a portal into a deeper meeting with yourself. Nothing was in vain. Nothing is in vain. Now take a deep breath and notice. You are alive. And being alive means there is still a path. No matter what has happened, no matter how much has been broken, there is always a part of you that remains untouched. That part is flame, breath, eternal presence. And from that place, true healing is born. So this is not a farewell. It is an invitation to keep walking. If this message resonated with you, if at some point during this journey you felt something within you being touched, I want to invite you to stay. This space is not just a channel. It is a community being built. We are walking together to reclaim wisdom that was never meant to be forgotten. Every person who arrives strengthens this project, not just as a number, but with their energy, their story, their truth. Subscribe here to the channel. We are reaching toward our first milestone, 1,000 subscribers. But this number is more than statistics. It is a symbol that more and more people are awakening, remembering they are not alone, that there is a field of love and wisdom we can share. When you subscribe, you are not only supporting an independent creator, you are saying yes to this collective journey. And I want more than your silent presence. I want to hear your voice. I want you to share your experiences, your discoveries, even your struggles. Because every story told here inspires someone else to see that change is possible. So leave in the comments how your life has been aligning lately. It could be something small like a new thought, or something life-changing like a decision that shifted your direction. Every share matters. Every word left here becomes a seed for another life to blossom. The healing we seek is not found in ready-made formulas. It is found in meeting, in dialogue, in the mirror we see in one another. When you share your story, you not only free yourself, you also offer a map for others to recognize themselves. This is how we create community. This is how we transform a video into a living space of transformation. And before we finish, I want to say thank you. Thank you for walking with me until now, for opening your ears and, more than that, your heart. I know that time is the most precious thing we have. And if you chose to give yours to listen to this message, it means that something in you already recognizes the importance of this search. My promise is to continue bringing content that does not just inform, but transforms. That does not just speak to the mind, but touches the soul. So if this video made sense to you, if it brought clarity, comfort, or inspiration, subscribe. But do not subscribe as a mechanical gesture. Subscribe as a commitment to yourself, to continue on this path of awakening, and a commitment to all of us who are building this community together. And share your experience in the comments. Tell us what touched you most here, what you learned, what you felt. Your voice matters. Your presence makes a difference. In the end, this is not only my journey, it is ours. It is a collective calling to remember that life is deeper, more mysterious, and more beautiful than we were taught to believe, and that each of us carries within the power to heal, to inspire, and to transform. The forbidden secret was never locked away in hidden books. It was always there, within you, waiting for the moment you chose to open your eyes and recognize it. And if this is your moment, welcome. We are together, and this walk is only just beginning.